Oh, hello. I think I'm just sort of sorting out all of my bits and pieces and sharing the links and everything. If you're on, say hello. Um, I need to just sort my screen out so that I can see what people are saying. So do say hello if you can see me. It's absolutely freezing here in North Yorkshire. I've got my blanket on around my knees to keep me nice and warm. I've got lots of questions, got lots of things to show you, which is good. So what I'm hoping to do tonight. Oh, hi Ebony. Hi Helen. Ebony. Hi. Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad you're all joining me. So so I've got quite a few things to show you tonight. So I'm going to be flicking from me, you'll be pleased to hear, to looking at the screen because I want to talk about colours. And I'm also going to show you on my phone here, which I'll use with my webcam. I want to show you some oh, hi Patsy. I want to show you an app for using or for adding watermarks. So I've got lots of questions. I've got them all on my iPad, so I'm very organised tonight. So I've got them all on my iPad and I'm going to make a start. I'll talk about who sent the questions. If you've got any other questions that you want to ask, please do put them into put them in the chat. Not a problem at all. And I'll try and answer questions as much as I can. So Kathy Edwards has asked, will I be doing more tutorials on drafting film? And yes, I definitely will. I think you're all aware that I'm really enjoying drafting film at the moment. I like to work on a surface quite a bit so that I can really get to grips with how it works, how my pencils work on it, and try new weird Google account name. She can stalk people with it. Oh, nice. I need to try that. So I definitely will be doing more on drafting film. I've got some really nice tutorials that I'd like to do coming up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a poll up on Patreon. Some people want a parrot or a brightly coloured bird. Somebody wants a white dog. So I'm going to put a load of pictures up. Then I'm going to run a poll and we'll see which you want, and I can do all of them. We've got a whole year in front of us, which is very exciting. So Kathy also asked, do I prefer working light to dark or dark to light? And actually that's a really good question, because I use both, and sometimes I like to go dark to light. So if I'm working with dark grey pastel matte, something like that, and I'm doing maybe like a black dog, I would prefer to work dark to light. So I would prefer to put all of my darks in, and really dark darks, and use blacks and blues and everything to create all of those dark, colours. And then I would go in over the top with probably something like I'd probably use Pablo's, and I'd probably use something like a light grey Pablo, or I might even use a light cobalt blue luminance, and I would go over the top of the black to create all of the little highlights and the hair nuances and stuff like that. So if I'm using pastel matte and it's the dark grey pastel matte, I would definitely work dark to light, but not always, which isn't particularly helpful. So if I was using drafting film, then I would definitely work light to dark, but it also depends on whether I'm going to be using like a subtraction technique, whether I'm going to be using the Tombow, or whether I'm going to be using the slice tool. Now if I'm going to be using the slice tool, then actually I can work dark to light, so I can go really dark like I did with the cat, the Milo cat. I can put all my darks in, and then I can take the lights out over the top. So that works really well. That for texture. However, if I'm working on something that's relatively sort of smooth, it hasn't got an awful lot of texture, then I'll probably definitely start with the lights you know, really look after the light colours and kind of add the darks in as I go along. So yeah. So that's that. And then so can you please recommend a good watermark program or software package? Something that's easy. Well, we all like easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to video capture. So here we have my phone. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. Let me know if I'm talking about something and you can't see it. I'll just sort of look at, not brilliant, but right. So what we're going to do is this is my phone, and I'm going to do it on my phone, and it's an app called Snapseed. Now I think you can get Snapseed on a PC, but I think it's very difficult to get it from Mac. So if you're using some sort of a device like a phone or an iPad or something like that, I think you can use it quite well. So I'm just going to come in on here and open Snapseed up. So I've already got one open here, but I'm just going to show you quickly how it works. You go up to the top and you go open, right, and then you choose where you're going to. Oh, you can't really see that. Hang on, let me just darken that up a little bit so hopefully you can see it. There. I'll have to darken it up and then lighten it back up again. So you're opening from device. Let's just put that back to there. So I'm going to open that up, and there we have the picture there. Okay, this is the picture that we want to put the watermark on. And then all you do is you go down to the bottom here, and you can see here where it says tools. So we go into tools. There's all sorts of things on Snapseed that are really, really useful actually. You can do image edits. You know, you can do all sorts of things, and it's definitely worth having a bit of a play. If you've got something that's particularly grainy, you can put something like the Glamour Glow on it. Not like that. You can put the Glamour Glow on it, which is really good, and you can really smooth things out. You know, it is really good. You know, for doing stuff like that. But in this instance, what we're going to be doing is we hit tool and then we hit the little text button there. So we hit on the text, and you get this bit in the middle here that says double tap to change the text. Okay, so we just double tap that, and we'll put in my name, and we click on OK, and we get this here. And then what you can do is you can change the colour. So if I move that, and you can just move it around the screen, you can put it wherever you like, and you can also change the size of it, and you can move it about. So if we just put it there, like that, and I can change the opacity of it if I want to, so let's just keep it at 100%. And then now this is the good bit, I can change the actual style of it. So we've got just one line like that, which, you know, you might want something nice and simple. We might have a line like that. You might want to, well, if you use something like that, you might want to knock it right back just to make it so it's not quite in your face. Line like that. And then you come into these other ones which are a little bit more stylized. You know, you might like, you might not like, you know, something like that. You might quite like. There's all sorts, and then you start to get into sort of like the little badges that you can do as well. So you could choose exactly what you want to do, and it's really good. I tend to use something like that. Oops. In fact, to be quite honest, I don't actually put watermarks on my work, which I know is really silly, but I just don't. But anyway, so, and once you've done that, you kind of tick it, and you say, yeah, that's okay, and then you export it, and you can either just save it over the top of your actual image, or you can save a copy. And if you save a copy, you can actually take it back into Snapseed and change it. So I would definitely recommend, so if I go into my photos now, there we go. So that's now in my photos, and I can now upload that into, you know, wherever I want to upload it. So let me just have a look at what Okay, so Helen was going to say this is the same as editing photos in yours. Okay, but on that you can't change the opacity or do those cute logo styles. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. So if you've got the ability to be able to put something like that on, you know, using your phone, the editing, you know, bits on your phone, then brilliant. I mean, you don't have to have anything amazing. You might. I mean, I did when I was first starting out. I did actually have a logo of my own. Well, I have got a logo of my own, but I was just taking my photos into Photoshop, putting the logo on and saving it as that, and that's lovely. But then it's, you know, it's much easier just to do something like this, because then you can do it on the go, you know, if you don't want to go back into Photoshop and do all of that type of thing. So I would definitely recommend Snapseed, and like I say, you've got some fantastic editing tools in there. You know, if you wanted to, I think there's one that's pretty good. Oh, if you wanted to blur it, you know, if you want to do, you just want to sort of concentrate on one little bit. You want like a really cool photo for Instagram or something like that. You know, you can just sort of concentrate on one tiny bit, blur everything else out. So that's quite a good function. You know, you can also put all sorts of I mean, you can make it, you know, you can completely change it if you want. But there's also the vignettes, pretty good. You know, just different ways of making your Instagram pictures a little bit more interesting. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use this one, but you know, it might be useful for something else. So I definitely recommend Snapseed as an app. I don't think it costs anything, and it's really useful. It's a really useful app. Right, so let's get rid of that, and then back to me. Haha. Let's turn that off. Okay, so those were all Kathy's questions, which are you know, brilliant. Thank you ever so much. And then now I've got some questions from Patsy. So Patsy, hopefully, is still here. So what does Patsy say? She says, the most difficult part for me is figuring out which colours to use. I've used the Colour Picker app, and the Colour Picker app is really good. But at times it's more confusing than helpful, and I can understand that, because sometimes you might pick a colour and it might give you a specific colour, and then it's like, oh, I'm not sure whether that's the right colour or not, and then it's like, well, do I use that colour, or do I use the colour that I think it should be? And then it all just gets a little bit confusing. And then I suppose time and experimenting will be my best teacher, but there are any tips or tricks in knowing what colours to look at. So, oh, hi Patsy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen, and we're just going to look at some colours. So take that off. Hang on, right, just going to share my screen. So if you can, let me know if you can see a horse. I'm hoping you can. So this is the horse that I drew. It is a commission that I did a couple of weeks ago. It's a really unusual colour. You know, it's a dark bay horse, but then we've got these lovely sort of sunburnt bleached areas in the muzzle and the forelock area. And what I thought I'd do is I'd just kind of have a chat through the colours that I would look at. Brilliant. Oh, thanks, Patsy. The colours that I would choose to create this horse. You know, you think of a bay horse. I mean, this horse looks black, really. You know, black with bleached bits. So colour-wise, you know, you might look at this and just be like, oh my God, I have no idea what colours to use. I just don't know. My suggestion is that you try not to panic, first of all. Just be really rational about what it is that you want to create. So you want to create this horse. Clearly there's some lovely shine. So we've got some lovely shine here. We've got some lovely shine down the front of the face. We've obviously got a little white star at the top here, and we've got some shine here. We want to be able to create that shine on the horse, because that's going to make it look you know, really real, and it's going to be quite dramatic as well. And we've also got, you know, we've got these sort of like reddy browny patches around the eye. Obviously the reddy browny patches on the ears and in the forelock and around the muzzle area, and the rest of it is pretty dark. You know, it's quite black, and then we've got these lovely sort of bluey blacks in the mane here. Now, actually, I really like the contrast between the cold and the warm colours. So we've got a lot of warmth on the front of the face, and then we've got a lot of coolness in the neck area and on the mane. And that's a really good place to start, is looking at the lighting and the temperature of the piece, so the warm areas and the cool areas. And it's absolutely okay to mix and match your warm and cool colours, and I personally feel that if you mix the temperatures, it almost gives you a more realistic piece. So that's where I would start. Even before I'd look at colours, I'd start at the temperature and I'd look at the lighting. I would then start to think, right, okay, so what colours? So I'd start with the eye. So I get the eye in. The eye actually in this one, whoops, there's no real brown in the eye. It's quite a bluey, greyy eye, to be honest. And that's okay. I wouldn't try and make this eye anything other than what it is. If I tried to make it more browny looking, it's kind of gonna stand out a little bit like a sore thumb, I think, against the rest of the colouring. I think the colouring of the eye here actually works really well with the rest of the colouring of the horse. So I would be looking at dark indigos, I'd be looking at some cold greys in there, and I'd be looking at a smidgen of browns in the eye. Now, dark indigo polychromos and walnut brown polychromos actually work incredibly well together. And that's what I would be using, just in little touches in here. And then I'd be putting sort of like cold greys over the top, just to create these nice sort of light areas. You can see the picture's not that detailed, you know, but you can get some quite nice lighting detail in there. Then when we come to around the outside of the eye, if you were going to use the colour picker, you'd actually end up with all sorts of different colours in here, and I think you would get really confused. Well, I know I would get really confused. You'd have, I imagine you'd have burnt siennas, you'd have walnut brown, you'd have some warm greys in there, you'd probably have some Caput Mortuum violet, you know, talking polychromos, you'd probably have some umbers in there. You might even have some like really sort of pinky colours in here and some bright oranges. Now, my suggestion would be pick an orangey colour, like a burnt ochre. So a burnt ochre would be fabulous up here and down here to begin with, just to get some colours down and to get a feel of what you're drawing. So put a bit of burnt ochre in here, a bit of burnt ochre down here, a bit of burnt ochre up here. See how that's going. Oh, hi Janice. And then pick something like a walnut brown or a Van Dyke brown, and just sort of very lightly start to put in these browny areas around here. Now, as you start to put those colours in, you will then get a real feel as to whether they're working properly, and you will then be able to go, oh, hang on a second, right, I've put the walnut brown in, but actually I'm thinking it's a little bit too warm. I'm thinking maybe, oh, do you know what might be really good? I could maybe put some nougat in there. So some nougat in here. Oh yeah, that's working quite well. I wonder what would happen if I just put a smidge of burnt ochre over the top of the nougat. And that's kind of how I start to layer my colours. You know, just starting off with a simple range of colours and then building from there. So in here I would be looking at putting Caput Mortuum violet in here, maybe even with some walnut brown over the top, maybe even like a dark sepia. Around here I might put the brownie colours in, and then I might go over the top with a dark sepia to create all of the detail and everything in here. Definitely use black in these dark areas, and probably a dark cold grey, even a Payne's grey in here. And then moving into these colours here, this is quite a reddy brown up here, so I'd be using like a Caput Mortum. Oh, right, so your trouble is that you picked something too dark for the first pass, Helen. Okay, so when you're looking at a piece like this, if you can try and identify the lightest colour, if you're working light to dark, if you can identify the lightest colour that you can see. So around here, I'm identifying burnt ochre for in here, and I can get quite a dark burnt ochre, and then I can get a really light burnt ochre from the same pencil, and that just depends on my pencil pressure. So I can go really, really, really lightly and get like a tint of the burnt ochre, and then I can go a little bit heavier or maybe do a few layers and get the darker burnt ochre. I think, you know, trying to choose like an overall colour, so looking at the horse and go, right, I'm going to go like a dark grey as my first colour. What's going to happen is, it's not a problem at all, because you can just put all of your darks in, and you can lift bits out with your eraser or, you know, your tape or whatever, depending on what you're drawing on. But with areas like this around the eye, I think it's quite important to really look at some of the lighter colours in there, because you do want to be able to, preserve those and keep them quite nice and clean. And then add in, as you're adding your layers in, you can start to add all of the darker detail over the top, which is kind of what I do when I'm working with drafting film. So I'll start with the much lighter layers on the bottom and then build up and build up and build up. If I was using pastel matte, depending on what colour I do, I may well put all of the dark areas in first. You know, it just depends on how I'm feeling and what the subject is really. But if you're struggling to pick the colours, I definitely have a look. I definitely go, oh, that's orangey colour. What's a good orangey colour? What's a good brown? And I know it sounds really simple, but what's a good browny colour? You know, what's a good black colour? And go from there. You know, we don't need to pick exact colours. The most important thing over colour is tonal qualities. Hi, Carol. Is tonal qualities. So, you know, making sure that your darks are dark, your lights are light. Those are the most important things. And your colours are kind of secondary to that. But, you know, definitely look at the temperature. Do end up extracting a lot on my first. Well, that's okay. That's okay, Helen, because, you know, if you whack a load of colour down and then you take it back out again, you're not. It's not that you're erasing. You're adding to. You're still adding to your. You're still adding to your piece. You're adding lovely highlights. Sometimes, if you were going to do this bit here, so this area on the forehead. You know, we get our dark colours in, but to get these lovely lines, these hairlines in here and these lovely highlights, I mean, do we try and draw in all of that? Hi, Kim. Do we try and draw all of these little hairs in? Well, that's going to look horrible. I'm telling you now, it's going to look horrible. What you could do is you could just put a flat layer down and then go in and take these out with your Tombow and just work with it that way. And then you get some lovely soft fur lines coming in, and it works really, really well. The same with things like the vein areas here. You know, get your pencil marks in the right direction and then just lift out a little bit. The dark bits of this horse, I'm definitely seeing blue. So I would be using sort of dark indigos, I'd be using cold greys, and I'd be using a little bit of black in there as well, just to tone it down. Now, if I was doing this on drafting film, I would be looking at using the sepia 50% quite a bit on this horse, mixed in with other colours, because the sepia 50% ends up being sort of like almost like a purpley colour, and purple or violets work incredibly well with oranges. You know, so if you keep one thing in your head, orange and violet work incredibly well together. They're just fantastic colours to mix together. You're not going to get any greeny, sludgy looking colours. Your violets are going to go over the top of your oranges, and they will just deepen them and just darken them very slightly so that you get the most beautiful shadowy hues. So up in this forelock area up here, you know, we've got some definite oranges in here. I mean, this is really quite orange here, and we've got some sort of like more muted browns. but you could put orangey colours in here, so sort of like a terracotta. You could even put like a Mars orange in there, or your burnt ochre, and you can put your Mars violet over the top. Or you could use the sepia 50% over the top of the orange just to knock it back slightly. That works incredibly well. Kim, how colour saturated is your paper when you finish? It depends on what I'm drawing. So this particular horse, I had a lot of colour on it. I had a lot of layers on it. This sort of area here, the lighter areas, it was going back down to the film, so there wasn't an awful lot of colour in this area here. There was a little bit of colour, but not a huge amount. This area down here, there was a lot of colour. You know, especially in the dark areas, because I like to build it up quite slowly. And in the neck area, there was a lot of colour. Sepia 50% Patsy is a luminance. It's a, oh my God, superb colour. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's right, Ida, it's a luminance. So luminance do a sepia, which is a really dark purpley brown, sepia 50% and a sepia 10%. They are amazing, amazing colours. Right, when you glaze over to bring out some colours, how do you determine what colour to go for? Right, so if I was going to go and glaze over this forelock here just to make it a little bit richer, I would be looking at a bright orange to glaze over all of these colours here. I would be choosing, depending on what I'd already put down on the paper, I'd be choosing a colour that is going to complement it but not discolour it. Okay, so I wouldn't use a bright orange over a blue, because I would get a green. You know, it just wouldn't go. But a bright orange over the top of the sepia and the burnt ochre, terracotta, walnut brown, that type of thing, it's going to do is it's just going to enrich and everything and just brighten everything up slightly. So you could use either the orange luminance or you could use the orange glaze or the polychromos. Oh, hi Deb. Yes, this one was drawn on drafting film. This one I did on drafting film. I should pull up a picture of the finished one really, but I don't think I've got it on my Mac. If I was going to glaze over this area of the horse here, you know, I'm going to have blues down here, I'm going to have some greys down here. If I used a warm colour, so if I glazed over this with like a reddy colour, so I could glaze over this with like a Caput Mortuum violet or something like that, what it's going to do is it's going to give it a little bit of a maroony look. And that's not such a bad thing for down here, because that has got that more reddy feel. But you might want to just sort of pull out the richness of the blues, in which case I might even go in with like a cobalt blue or something like that. You know, and it becomes almost like a habit. It becomes almost like, oh, hang on a second, so this little bit here is quite purpley. Oh, I'm just going to glaze a tiny bit of purple violet or something over this here, just to get that purpley glow. So you've got a change of colour in there, but when you look at it, it's not like, what? Why on earth has she put purple in there? You know, it's not about showing colours, it's about really building what's underneath and the layers you've already put in there. Because, you know, animals aren't all one colour. I mean, you look at this animal and it's all sorts of different colours and it looks fine. You know, and if you get all of those colours in on your drawing, you know, it just makes it look a little bit more alive. So just treating myself to a full set. Oh yeah, Anita, I did the same. I treated myself to a full set of luminance, and they honestly, I never used to like luminance at all, and I don't like luminance on pastel mat at all, but on drafting film, oh my word, they're just fantastic. I love them on drafting film. So Kim, somebody else has asked that about the shiny finish in areas, if it's an area quite colour saturated. So I'll come on to that in a second. Yeah, so that's how I would look at picking colours. On the neck area, I wanted to bring out some of this sort of browny colour in here. So that was quite challenging actually, because to get the brown in there and also to get the really dark bluey black in there as well, it was quite difficult to kind of get everything to work well together. And it was just a case of sort of bringing these browny areas in really gradually and not making them too greeny brown. So I've kept them quite a warm brown. And then I've used the blue and the blacks and everything, around them. And that it worked quite well. There's still out there who think colour pencil artists don't blend or mix colours. No, I'm always mixing my colours. Do I always glaze, or just depends if you feel an area needs something? It just depends on whether I think it needs something, and actually it's usually on darker animals. So it's usually on like if I'm doing like a black Labrador or something like that, I might go, oh, just put a little bit of pink in there, or a bit of yellow ochre or something, and people might not spot it, but it will make a difference, and it makes a difference to me. So I tend to do it with darker animals, or something that once I've finished, I'm just thinking, oh, it just needs a little bit of a lift. So just glazing very gently over the top gives it a bit of a lift. The other really good thing about glazing, and this works brilliantly on pastel mat, and well, any paper actually, is when you come to do the fine details. So say you have like a sandy coloured dog, and you put all of the sandy colour in, and you're starting to build up, and you're wanting to start bringing the details in, actually glazing in quite softly into some of those shadowy areas, like the areas like this where you've got like a little bit of a dip, but it might be more muted than that. You can start to glaze in darker colours over the top, and that's when you start to get this lovely sort of sculpted look to your drawings. So I guess I do use glazing quite a bit, but to pull colours out, it's just dependent on the piece really. So going back to colour picking, I would just be rational about what colours you're picking. Don't be scared. Just go, right, I've got some orange, I've got some sort of like palish brown, I've got some darkish brown, and I've got like a bit of red, and start with that. Because whatever paper you're using, if you go lightly enough, you'll be able to layer over the top of it. And even if you get the wrong colour down to begin with, if you're using pastel mat or if you're using drafting film, you'll be able to go over the top, or you'll be able to rub it out, and it will only add to the finished piece. So don't ever feel you're getting the wrong colours in there. It's just going to add to the final piece. So that's what I would do. And don't be scared about colour. Just pick something. If something looks blue, do it blue. If something looks brown, do it brown. Don't be scared. All my drawings have my workings out at the edges where I check what colour actually comes out like. Thankfully nobody's commented. Oh, and Helen, do you leave those in when you send the piece? Because I love that. I love that idea. I've just been working with the lovely Darren, and he's done his dog, and he's done exactly the same thing, and he's framing it with all of the workings out on the side. I love that idea. I think it's fantastic. And certainly if and you can choose to crop it out if you frame it if you want, but I really like that. Personally, I don't. I'm so late. I'm so lazy. I'm just like, right, I'm starting a picture. I'm just going to whack colour in, and I'm not gonna. I'm not going to test them. I'm just going to go, if this works, it's fine. If it doesn't work, I'll change it, which isn't probably a very good thing, to tell people to do, but it's just how I work. I'm just too lazy and too unorganised to do all of that. But Helen, that's brilliant. I love that. I really like that. I like that idea a lot. Anyway, so that's the colour picking. If anybody's got any more questions about the colour picking, just let me know and we'll come back to them. Right, so back to Patsy. So regarding, so we're talking about my tutorial videos here, and we're looking at I don't know whether this was a question you wanted me to ask, Patsy, but I am going to bring it up because I think it's really relevant. you're wanting me to talk more consistently about my colour choices and why, and why I use them. And I think that's a really, really good idea, actually, and that's really good feedback from me, because I'm just going to bring you back to me. Not that, not that, not that. Oops, that. I think you've got me. Ooh, it was a bit of a shock for everybody. Yeah, I think it's really, really important for feedback like that. When I'm doing my videos, I get in the zone, and sometimes and it's all done off the cuff, so I don't plan any of my drawings at all. So when I start recording, I'm just drawing and I'm just talking, and I don't really know what I'm going to say. And sometimes I say stuff that's amazing, and other times I say stuff and it's just like, what on earth is she on about? So I think for me, to really think about, when going forward with my tutorials, to really think about and structuring them a little bit easier for you guys, and talking about why I'm choosing a colour. So I'm picking a colour up and I'm like, well, okay, so I'm using this colour. Why am I using it? The reason I'm using it is because I'm seeing this, that and the other. And maybe just do a little bit more, maybe even bring a bit of screen work in, look at the picture, and talk about why I'm using a particular colour. One of the other things that you said as well, which I'd love to do, but it just isn't possible, is with my videos, every time I choose a different colour, if I put the colour up on the screen. I'd love to do that, but it would mean listening to the whole of, say, a 40-hour video and editing it and putting the colour in as I edit it, and it would be impossible, and I wouldn't be able to get the videos out in time for you to see them. So what I do is I have become a lot better at naming all of the pencils that I've used in a tutorial. Like I say, I'm so lazy and I'm so slapdash about stuff, so if you yeah I do try hard, but sometimes it doesn't work very well. But to actually edit in the colour of every pencil as I pick it up, it's just not possible. It would mean at least 40, if not more, hours of editing, and I just can't do that. At the moment, I chop off the beginning and the end of each video bit, and then just check little bits in between, and that takes enough time. So it's I'd love to, but I just can't. I am trying to name my pencils a little bit better, and I do realise that sometimes I don't name them, which is oh, Patsy, believe me, I am really, really lazy. Sometimes I forget to name my pencils, and the reason I forget to name my pencils is because I get so into my drawing that I kind of forget. I might be talking, but I talk all the time anyway, but I just forget. But I am going to try harder. I promise I'll try harder. And yes, that's another thing as well, Patsy, keeping the reference photo on the screen. I'll have a chat with Evie tomorrow and ask her if she can start putting that in, because I realise that that's really useful for you. So if anybody does have any feedback about my videos, and honestly, any feedback at all is brilliant, please do let me know, because I want to be making sure that the videos I create for you are the best I can possibly do. So I'm going to try harder with my pencils, and I'm going to add the ref photo in. Bless you, you're all going, you're not lazy. Oh my god, I'm honestly hardest working person I've ever known. That's so funny. As you get more and more comfortable with camera work and filming for tutorials, they will, and it's sometimes I talk loads, and sometimes I come out with like amazing snippets of knowledge. Well, I think I do anyway. And sometimes it's just like I don't. But I will try much harder to name all the pencils, because I do realise that it's really important for you guys. Never tried drafting film. What do you suggest purchasing? I strongly suggest you purchase the Graphics drafting film 0.005 double matte. And I would recommend you buy that over the Duralar and the Polydraw, because it's thicker. It's like a paper, and you can get so many layers on it. you can get tons of layers on it. Polydraw is the same. You can get loads of layers on the Polydraw, but it's so flimsy. So I would definitely go with the drafting film. Patsy, Helen is showing as Ebony because she's got a different Google name and she likes to stalk people. So that's why she's known as Ebony. Right, okay, so that's fantastic. So the next one, we've got a question from Janet, and it's about drawing white on white, and do I leave white areas alone or do I use white pencil in these areas? Now, secret identity. Now, with a white dog or anything white on white pastel mat, I used to, because I'm so lazy, leave any white areas white, because I'm like, well, you know, what's the point in putting any, it is white, I might as well use the paper to help me. I'm just gonna have a slug of tea. However, after having spoken to Aaron Gadd, who I had some mentoring with at the beginning of this year, mentoring, kind of critiquing more than anything really, he suggested to me that don't leave your paper clear of pencil. And the reason why is because he said that it is to do with the aging process. So your paper is going to age differently to how your pencil is going to age. So you're better to cover your entire surface, you know, of your actual area that you're drawing. You're better to cover the entire surface. So now what I try to do is, if I've got a really white, oh, yeah, it's really big, and it's got, I don't know whether, it's got Mummy written on it. So Evie and I have one each. Evie doesn't have Mummy written on hers. But I really like my pint mug. It's, yeah. And well, my tea's hot to begin with, obviously, but then I drink a lot of cold tea because I forget it's there. So yeah, so I tend to cover the whole of the paper with pencil, just for that reason, just because Aaron Gadd said that I should, and he knows because he's really brilliant. You know, so if I've got like really, really white or anything like that, I just put white on, some sort of white, you know, and that yeah, that tends to work okay. But I guess, I mean, who I don't know whether he's right or not, I don't know, but I've kind of gone with what he said. And then Janet's got another question, which I'm not quite sure what she means, but I'll kind of talk about a couple of things just in case I get it right. I'd like to know how you decide how to define the outside edge of the drawing. Do you make it pronounced with a sharp black pencil, or does it depend on the picture? Now, I don't know whether she's talking about your initial outline. So if you're talking about an initial outline, then I would use something that is No, and that's what I mean, you know, because if you don't do a background, and he doesn't do backgrounds, you know, is it going to matter? I don't think so. No, we don't have to do backgrounds. Although I get quite excited about backgrounds now, after doing my squirrel and after doing the cat. So I've got a few more tutorials lined up that have got backgrounds, which I'm quite bit giddy about. Anyway, so back to the white, the outline. I tend to use either graphite. On drafting film, I would use like a really sharp, what I got here, 4H I've got here, graphite pencil, and I just use that on the film. If I was using pastel mat, depending on the colour of the animal that I'm going to be drawing, I would use something like a warm grey 2 or something like that. You know, to do the outline, and I try and do it really, really gently because you don't want an outline around your animal. Now, if she's talking about putting an actual outline around the drawing, then no, I don't put an outline around the drawing. I tend to like a lot of lost edges. So if it's a white animal, I like the white to kind of just drift off. I like to have some really nice strong shadows. So I might have a really, really lovely strong shadow along one edge. But never a sharp line. I wouldn't do that. And then, Deb, how on earth do you keep the surrounding areas of white pastel mat clean? It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. And some people do, oh gosh, who did I see that did it the other day? She cut round. So you can cut round your outline and just put paper over the top. and then just have your little gaps where you're drawing. You can use that, what is it, film? Can't remember the name of it now, my brain's gone. But you can use the, it's not graphics, is it? You know, the low tack film. You can cut out the shape and you can put that down and you can peel it off and it's all keeps clean. Funnily enough, I don't use anything. So if I've got white pastel mat, it's strapped to my board. I always put a piece of glassine over it when I'm not working on it. And if I've worked on one half and then working on another, I put glassine paper over that as well. And then I continually use my putty eraser just to dab off any pencil dust or anything like that. I'm quite, I'm quite careful to keep it clean. But I know that some people, I don't know, we all work differently, don't we? You know. Glassine paper, that's and you could also cut out your glassine paper as well and stick that round, but I tend to not use anything, and I just hope for the best, I think. No, that's not tacky, but you can use the glassine paper and you can just cut an outline and then just stick it on, and that would work fine. The only thing there is you can actually get pencil dust that kind of goes underneath, so you could use I can't remember the name of the film, but it's the low tack film, and you can just sort of cut it up and stick it on the top, and it'll on the pastel mat. It works well and it peels off. I've also used that on the drafting film because I've done. I should do some of that actually. I've done some backgrounds using an airbrush, so I had to completely mask off the area that I was drawing, and I used that film and then airbrushed it and then peeled it off, and that worked really well as well. So that's good. Right, okay, so we're on to now the shiny, reflective, waxy look to be expected when light hits the piece at a certain angle on drafting film, and when you've got an awful lot of pencil on there. The effect is not pleasant, especially when the light hits the eyes. Is there a way to avoid this? And then just put matte fixative spray. Okay, first of all, Annalie, yeah, it's all going to be recorded and you can watch it back. That's fine. And yeah, pencil dust is causing me some issues on the Bristol vellum. Frisket, that's it, Amy. Thank you so much. It's Frisket. Maria, thank you. Yeah, it's called Frisket. Honestly, my brain is dead. It's called Frisket. Yes, and it works really, really well, and it doesn't damage the surface of the paper either on pastel. And I think you'd be able to use it on your smoother papers as well. And I would use your putty eraser. And I'd just roll it. Maxing film. Oh right, okay, maxing film as well. Just roll your putty eraser and just roll it over your surface like that, and it should pick everything up, hopefully. But you just got to be really careful. Okay, so back to the waxy look that's on drafting film. And yes, you're absolutely right. Sometimes, well, actually, all the time when you look at it, if you look at it like that, it's fine, and then you look at it on an angle and it goes all shiny. Just don't look at it like that. Only look at it straight on. Yes, it does look shiny, and it depends on what pencils you use. So I find certain pencils give more of a shiny look than others. Also, if you use your Tombow eraser an awful lot, that can make it look shiny. However, what I would say is, once you get it behind glass, you can't see it. You can't see it because you've got the glass over the top, and that's shiny, and it doesn't make any difference. I've got 2 pieces. I've just sent a couple of pieces away, but I've got 2 pieces over there that are framed. And when they weren't framed, you could see the shininess. But once they've got that glass over the top, or you've got acetate over the top or something like that, I send my my pieces mounted with clear acetate wrapped around them, and you can't see the shininess. So that's what I would recommend. Even if you're going to be sending something onto your client and you haven't got it mounted or framed or whatever, if you just get a clear plastic sleeve, and put it in that, you're not going to be able to see those shiny areas. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And no, I wouldn't put a fixative on drafting film. I did try the fixative on the drafting film when I was doing that dreadful test with using pan pastels. Oh, I hate those things. And it just doesn't dry. It just doesn't dry. very well, and it doesn't become stable. It doesn't become, you know, perfectly fixed. It just doesn't. So no, I personally wouldn't use any spray on the drafting film. Okay, so tried. La la la. Right, okay. So using the Caran d'Ache oil pastels on Duralar hasn't had a particularly great success, and would it be better on the drafting film? I think the drafting film works better with those neopastels, purely because it's got more of a tooth to it. So there's more tooth for it to adhere to. I think the Duralar is just a little bit too shiny. So I think I did have a play with it, and it does still work, but I think it does work better on the drafting film. How do you get the static out of the acetate? I put it around my bullet and it was sucking the pencil off. Oh gosh, like the acetate got dusty. Oh, I don't know about that, Amy. My framer does all of mine. I will ask him I'll just make a note of that. I'll ask him what he uses. Static acetate. Because I've never had that issue. But that's quite irritating actually, and frustrating. Oh, right, Kim. So she's tried fixative, an immediate hairdryer, and super amazing. Amazing. Right, I'm off to get my hairdryer and my fixative. Wow, that's really good, Kim. Can you send me some more information on that, if you don't mind? What fixative you used, and what drafting film you were doing, drafting film you were using, because that's really, really useful actually. You know, and that'd be quite good to try that. So if you could send me a little bit more information on that would be really good. Thank you for that. Ended up taking the acetate off and putting glassine around it. Ah, right, okay. Oh, that's annoying. That is annoying. Yeah, I'll ask him about that. And then, does pan pastel work on drafting film? Well, Annalie, all you have to do is watch my dreadful video on using pan pastel on drafting film, and you will know that I couldn't get it to work at all. But some people do. To be fair, I was trying to get a really rich colour on mine. And you've got to put it on and then kind of scrub it in and rub it off. And I think because I was trying to get a really, really rich colour, it wasn't working very well. But I know that quite a few people have used the pan pastel on the back of their pieces, and they've made some really lovely sort of soft backgrounds. And I think for that sort of thing, it works really well. But I was trying to get it really rich and vibrant, and I just couldn't do it. I was maybe a little bit reticent because I don't like the stuff anyway, but I couldn't. I made a real mess actually, and it was all over my hands. It was everywhere. So yeah. Yeah, so it's Patsy. I think you've used it quite well, but you've created some really lovely soft backgrounds, whereas I was trying to get the cat background, which was really vibrant dark colours, and I just couldn't get it dark enough. It was coming off, but it was too muted and dull. Whereas if I'd have tried to do like a lovely soft background, it would have worked quite nicely. Tested. Oh, Janice tested the Duralar and the neopastels work pretty well. Yeah, I guess it depends on how you're using it and how much you scrub it in and then how much you wipe it off. You know, I think there's a bit of sort of like testing and a bit of, you know, experimenting and everything there. And then with regards to drafting film, someone said you need to make sure it's not Mylar. Well, I've not used Mylar, but I know Karen Hull uses Mylar, and I think it's quite similar. I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know whether the Mylar is smoother. I'm not sure. I use the graphics one. Yeah. But yeah, really interested though, Kim, in seeing how you've worked with the fixative. That would be really useful. And then, is it wiser for me to put light animals on pastel mat and try a medium to dark coloured animal as my next subject on drafting film? This is Barbara again. I think it's up to you. I don't think it really matters. I've done both. I've done light animals on pastel matte, I've done light animals on drafting film, and I've done dark animals on pastel matte and dark animals on drafting film. I think it just depends. I think you can do either. It doesn't matter at all. The techniques you can use, it's going to look brilliant whatever you do. So that's a personal choice. I think definitely a personal choice. I'm working on a grey horse at the moment, and I was a bit worried that it might be. I don't know why I was worried it was going to be a bit light on the drafting film, because white is white, and actually it's working really well. So, so no, I wouldn't recommend using a specific paper for a light or a dark animal. I'd go with your personal choice. And then we've got 5 minutes. Lastly, and this is actually something that I'm going to do in December, but I'm gonna cover off briefly. Gina has said, is paid advertising recommended on Facebook and Instagram, and if so, how is the best way to go about it? So in December, oh, hang on a second. Best white pencil for underlayer. Don't like the polychromos. No, Annalise, so the Polychromos white pencil is going to stop you being able to layer anything over the top. It's almost like it has like a bit of a shield effect. It makes it's just really weird. So I would either use Luminance or Pablo. I'd probably use Pablo as an underlayer rather than a Polychromos, and then I'd use Polychromos nearer the end, I think. But I wouldn't ever use Polychromos to begin with, because it just gives it like makes everything look a bit weird. Yeah, okay, so back onto the Facebook and Instagram and paid advertising. Now in December, what I'm going to do for the whole of my patrons, so all of the tiers, is I'm either going to I might do a live feed, and I might do a separate video on the marketing using Facebook and Instagram and the marketing tools that you can have on there. So go through using their ad manager and creating campaigns and all of that type of thing. But just to answer Gina's question, it depends on where you're wanting to go. It depends on your specific marketing plan and what you are wanting to gain from your social media. Now, if you've got a plan and you're wanting not necessarily more followers, but you're wanting more people to buy your product, whatever your product might be, whether it's commissions, whether it's original pieces, whether it's teaching, which is part of my service. Advertising can be incredibly effective, but it's got to be targeted and it's got to be done properly. When you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram, you always get this little button at the bottom that says boost, and very often people mistake that for targeted advertising, and they'll go, right, okay, Facebook's given me £5 to boost this post, I'll add another £5 or whatever, and you go boost and off it goes and you get nothing. And that's because it's not targeted. You have to create a proper campaign for your work. So it takes a little bit of work, it takes a bit of planning, it takes you to sit down and say, right, who is my audience? Where are my audience? Where am I going to find them? What are they interested in? And what exactly do I want out of a Facebook or Instagram campaign? And you can then create really, really targeted advertising campaigns. You can create test campaigns. You can run one campaign against another, for the same advert to see which one works best. You can drill right down into, who is going to be looking at your advert. But what's really, really important to think of at the beginning is what is your advert? What is it that you want to put across? Your tone of voice, the content you're putting in there, everything like that. You kind of have to have a really good strategy first of all before you start to look at creating an advertising campaign. When I first started full-time in 2017, I had a budget and I had a forecast document, and in my forecast document I had that, you know, I was going to get X amount of commissions each month. So this month I was going to do this month I was going to do this month I was going to do this. And I had 18 months in my forecast. And it was quite specific actually. And you know, I'd planned, right, okay, so I want that. So if I want that, I need to do this, that and the other. And then each month on my budget, I had £50 towards advertising, social media advertising. I've never advertised on Instagram. I've never used any targeted ads on Instagram, but I have on Facebook. Oh, hi Nicola, that's okay, you can watch it back if you really want. So I did quite a lot of targeted advertising on Facebook. I did some tests and I must have run a couple of adverts every month in 2017, probably throughout the whole of 2017, and it did bring me good returns. So it did bring me more followers and it did bring me more sales, you know, which was what I wanted. And you know, yeah, you might get thousands of likes and whatever, and that's fine, but the actual real result is for people to buy your product. That's what you're wanting. And also, you know, the more your page gets out there and the more likes you get and the more followers you get, obviously the more likely you are to be able to get more, you know, sell more work, which is brilliant. So I would say, depending on where you're going with your business, and depending on the time that you can put aside to actually create some targeted, you know, a proper strategy, and that it's not just going to be willy-nilly, you know, oh, I'll just boost this and I'll just boost that. You know, if you really target your adverts, it can work incredibly well. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'll create a video of how to you know, use Ad Manager, because Facebook has got something called Ad Manager. In fact, let me just, I'll send you all a screen grab of what it looks like. But I'll do a video on how to actually create an advert using Ad Manager, how to drill down, how to choose your audience, all of that type of thing. I'll create a video, I'll share it with everybody across every tier, and then I think probably do a live stream off the back of that for all of the tiers in Patreon, you know, and then I can go through it again, and if anybody have got any questions or anything like that, I can try and answer them. It is, Helen, it is really useful, and it's dependent on what you want to do with your business. You know, with my business, you know, I'm a single mum, I've got my mortgage to pay. I want to be able to earn enough money to be able to keep a roof over mine and my children's heads. It's as simple as that. You know, so, and also I've got a marketing and business background, so I kind of know how those things work anyway. You know, and but it's all dependent on what you want for your business. You know, and you can go as far as you like. You know, or you can just try one and you know, just do maybe one a year if you wanted. Honestly, it doesn't matter. But if you're really, really serious about building a business, then targeted advertising, I think, is really important. You know, and understanding how it works and why it's important is a really good idea. So I think that's it. I think we've had just over an hour. So I've talked for just over an hour. Brilliant. Thank you all. I don't know, I'm not going to I'm going to say my goodbyes and everything, because I think if I stop it now, it'll just stop and you won't see any of this. She won't see any of this. So I'll sort of say some thank yous and everything on here, and then I'll stop the stream. But I just want to say thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining me. It's I really enjoy these sessions, actually. I really do enjoy these sessions, and it's nice to chat and to you know, to try and help people, I suppose. So yeah, and any other questions, you know, if you've got any questions throughout the month or whatever, then you know, just let me know. So thank you guys. Just drink from my enormous mug again.